Wow. Hello, denizens of the internet. We meet again. Och, my heart doth deceive me, for you have graced me with your presence on this glorious day. This day basked in the glow of the worm earth. So, today I would like to talk about a topic that sucks. It is absolutely haram, but it can't be helped. And that's going to be my voice. So, cat's out of the bag. I don't have a very good sounding voice. Never have. And I'd like to go into at least my history and my experiences with, sounding like that. Now, don't worry. More than enough people throughout my life have informed me that, in fact, I do sound like a fag and my shit is all retarded, to quote the famous meme. And they're not wrong, They are definitely not wrong about that, but I might as well go into the reasons why I think it happened, and, maybe you can learn or at least take away something interesting from my suffering. Because Lord knows, everyone loves to hear about suffering, right? We exist to, almost in essence, to vicariously imbibe other people's suffering and build up our own experiences through it. So, in that regard, I will offer up to you my suffering, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you can appreciate, at least. So, I think the problems with my voices started when I was very young. So, I used to try and avoid speaking to people, if at all possible. And I just didn't want to speak for long periods of time. For instance, when I was a teenager, I simply just avoided conversations. There are periods in my life where I went through, what must have been like weeks without even speaking. And your voice, your vocal cords are actually muscles, and if you refuse to use them for long periods of time, they don't function. And I didn't realize this when I was young, but it eventually happened to me where I lost my voice for an extended period of time because I hadn't spoken for a while, and the muscles in my vocal cords kind of died. And I think that's at least where the horrible sounding voice came from. Now, you could argue I'm just gay or whatever, and even if I am, if that is true, I've never, had sex with anyone, so Lord knows, but I don't think so. I'm not attracted to the same gender, which is generally what the taxonomy would call for if you were someone that's not straight, we'll say. So, if that is true, the best version of me is still the version that overcomes that and lives a normal and healthy lifestyle, so it's irrelevant, really. Like, even if I am, Mr. Flaming Happy Pants or whatever, I don't have to live like a degenerate. Even if my genes tell me, oh, be a degenerate, I can still live a healthy and good life. And, at least try to make things better rather than worse. But, that concept might be a little foreign to most people and their understanding. But anyways, when I was a child, up until a good teenage years, I tried to avoid conversation at all costs, just talking or interacting with people. And I feel like, at least, that's why I damaged my voice and got it to the state it's currently in. So, I have paid for my hubris, in essence, so that's where the trouble started. Now, going through life having a bad voice isn't the worst thing in the world, especially on the internet. Like, in a world like video games that are strictly all merit-based, you can kind of get away without speaking or interacting too much. And, in modern day, my horrible sounding voice might be a benefit because the people might assume I'm part of the LDHD TV, variety, and that because of that, they might, walk on eggshells when talking with me, or I might have opportunities that, if I had Chad Thunderschwang's voice, might not be available to me. So it's not the worst thing in the world. There are upsides to having an awful voice. No, I can't possibly know that it for sure was a benefit, but there's potential that, at least in modern day America, that has been somewhat of a benefit, or somewhat has aided me in my efforts to navigate through the real world. Although I would argue, it's debatable if that's actually the case. Like, who really knows? It could have very well just as much harmed me if people are negative, but I'd consider my life, and at least my existence thus far, very privileged compared to your average guy. So I've had, opportunities and enjoyment and ways to experience life that most people could only really dream of, and I understand that. So, you take the good with the bad. I'm not sure if my voice even hindered that, or if it helped it, or, God knows what, right? It's too complicated to really know what's inside the people who I've worked with or who have been associated with me in part. I know at least the internet, because it's a beacon of honesty and so refreshing and mostly merit-based, that the people that I've worked with on the internet at least, you do not think it's a benefit, and I would agree. It doesn't really help me sounding like this as far as like a main tank perspective, or someone that's, the warrior archetype and all of that, which is what I usually play. Sippy sippy. I like my Kohei. But going through life, having that kind of a sounding voice, certainly assumptions are associated with it, and it's not ideal. And maybe it's hampered any sort of potential relationship building, or, me finding the one, in essence. All possible aspects of it, but in the here and now, at the end of the day, it's almost grown to be a part of me, and, it's water off the back when someone insults it at this point, right? I couldn't possibly care. I've heard every iteration of voice-related joke, and it's not really going to get to me, sadly. It never really did, because I always knew it was a bad sounding voice, and I used to not really want to talk. These days I have to force myself, at least, to speak, just because if I don't speak, bad things are going to happen to my voice again. It'll go away, and that's less than ideal, one could say. Like, you definitely want to be able to have it, the ability to speak, because your words are obviously the most, potent form of power you have in the world. And throwing it away for no real reason isn't the smartest idea. And yeah, while my voice certainly is pretty much a hindrance in the way that I want to live life, or, the goals of life, it still has its benefits, and just like anything else, you can lament it, or you can simply just fight against it and continue to, be the best that you can be, even despite your, personal lackings. And certainly I have a number of flaws and personal lackings that are just innate to me. And, everyone does, in essence. No one is perfect, but, I don't think I need to relate to you that I did not win the genetic lottery as far as, personality, looks, and all of that goes. But given the circumstances, I'd argue I've done exceptionally well for myself throughout life to get where I am. And, it's not the best life, but it's good enough for me. If you're a minimalist, or if you can understand that, categorize things as what you need and what you don't need, a lot of, the woe is me stuff doesn't really impact you as badly. Sure, it's, useful to analyze things and say, well, this had a negative connotation on my life, and why did it? Well, because people are going to get the wrong assumption about me when they hear my voice. When they see what I type or how I play, and then they actually interact with me, they might, find different, or, well, a stark contrast to the two, let's say, the former. And given that, it's certainly not ideal. Like, I do indeed sound like one of the gays, and, my shit is in fact all retarded. But at the end of the day, as we progress as a society, I think it matters less and less going forward, which is a good thing, because it was a little bit of a problem earlier in life, but, it used to be I could just, and maybe that's where my edginess comes from, is I used to just be able to just be edgy, and then people would just say, okay, well, this guy sounds like an idiot, but at least he's based, right? And in current circumstances, I don't think that's possible anymore, because people have gotten to the stage of degeneracy now where, like, you know, you have, like, individuals, I've just seen them recently. It was very depressing to me that, like, you know, you've got the trad Christians, even at this point, who would prefer having a, you know, Christian Europe to a non-white Europe, for instance, and all of that shenanigans. So these are, like, the type of people you're associating with if you're looking in the based communities, and it's just very cringe, in my opinion. You know, they don't see the large picture, and I guess that's why their race is going to die, but, you know, that's for another video. That's neither here or there. But yeah, so my voice and its implications on my life, overall, extremely negative, likely caused by, you know, early life degeneracy and not speaking too often, having weak vocal cords. And I could go to a speech therapist, I could probably work on fixing it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't bother me nearly as much as I think most people would say it does. It sucks that it's, you know, a weakness of mine, and at least one of my weaknesses, probably my largest weakness, is the sound of my voice. And especially throughout life, it's been something that I, you know, didn't want to actively pursue, but, you know, in the here and now and where we're going from it, at least, I don't think it's the end of the world, right? I think it's something I can overcome, and I don't need to, like, go through and change myself or, you know, do the whole self-improvement on it, because, you know, most of the activities I partake of in this day and age are merit-based, right? Video games are mostly merit-based. So you don't really have to worry about the sound of your voice or anything like that. You can still accomplish your goals, you know, order them out, delayed gratification, and then get to from point A to point B, no matter how you sound in real life. It's pretty irrelevant. And in general, I avoid talking to people as much as humanly possible, right? Because objectively, in my circumstances, you know, just factually, I hate to say it, but my time is just more valuable than most people's time. You know, and that's even while being retired or just enjoying my life, you know. It is what it is, but that's a fact of reality, so, you know. And especially the people that can't really understand the difference between, like, a merit-based life and, like, the implications of how someone sounds versus how someone plays, like, it is what it is, and you can always be someone who interacts at least morally, who's not morally corrupt in the way they play video games, the way they go for that. And yeah, I know I've been a big troll in the past, and, like, that's also been a negative impact. Those are probably the two biggest things in my life that have caused me, at least personal, troubles and struggles, is the fact that I can't control myself about my trolling sometimes. I just, you know, get in and do bad stuff. It's just who I am. It's not something I'm proud of these days. I used to be very proud in my hubris of, you know, how easily I could fool people, how much chutzpah I had, or how talented a liar I was, like any good, you know, Jew. And it took me at least 30 years living on this earth to realize, you know, I'm probably not doing myself any benefits by doing this stuff. Why am I doing it? It's not really helping me, so I try and keep it to a minimum these days, even though I'm very, very good at trolling. Overall, it's something that I think has negatively impacted my life and harmed me in a way that you don't really understand, especially when you're, you know, a young buck and, you know, a memer and trying to destroy the world through memes. Like, you know, a lot of the things that you take for granted in the world, like, you know, the sound of your voice, how tall you are, you know, a lot of these aspects that improve your personal relationships but just give you an aura of invincibility, like, you know, those privileges a lot of people don't really account for in their blessings, and, you know, it's kind of sad. Like, I probably don't account for some of my blessings too, like the ability to analyze things in a way that at least makes sense to me, to parse them out, and then to figure out unique ways to solve problems. Like, that's usually the type of things I do in video games, and it gets me quite far adapting that strategy. And, you know, and while none of that really has any impact because of the sound of my voice or whatever, right? So, at least in that regard, it's not actively harming me, but, you know, there are a ton of things that, at least realistically, are going to be negatively impacted by the sound of my voice, you know, and even just going beyond just, like, perception of other human beings, because I really don't care. I'm not interested in interacting with other human beings, if at all possible. Like, my ideal life is one where my interaction with human beings is almost minimal, and that's what I'm working towards, at least, is, a life in which I can get by in my day-to-day without ever having to talk with another living, breathing creature. And I can manage that on most days. I still have to go to the store, but, like, as long as you give off the don't talk to me vibe to the storekeep, they'll generally leave you alone. Because they don't want to talk to you either, let's be clear here. The last thing the shopkeep wants or whatever is to have to deal with some chatty customer wasting their day. Although I'm sure some extroverted shopkeepers will take anything to break the monotony, but if they're somewhat busy or they have anything to do with their time, like the poor little guys probably don't want to have to deal with your random interactions, which is a blessing at least. And given the fact that I'm a man, another thing I'm blessed with, like, I don't have to worry about the opposite sex ever bothering me, especially because of my looks. I don't need to worry about that, but even if I wasn't a dysgenic looking freak, to put it mildly, I wouldn't have to deal with that. So, I have a number of blessings in that regard, so most of the time no one will ever even hear my voice, and that's the intention, at least. Like, in the world I can dodge, having to use it, which is why I'm not bothering with, like, speech therapy for it or whatever. I'm sure it could be cured quite easily given a couple months of work, but I'm just, why? I don't really care how it sounds. Other people care a lot more than I do about the sound of my voice. And yeah, it's good for meme content, haha, he sounds like a freaking mong, right? But, it really can't be helped, and it really isn't something, like, I can actively control. It's not like I'm thinking, okay, today I'm gonna sound like, a freaking cringe lord sodomite or whatever. That's not the goal, obviously, but... And who knows, maybe some people think it is. Maybe it's all just part of the master ruse here. The long troll, Snide, actually has a good voice or whatever. I'll come out and I'll sing some opera or something later on in life. I don't know. I'm sure I could, like, go into some speech therapy, some singing courses, and get to the point where I could, but I just don't see it. Like, in this world, you have to play to your strengths, and my strength is not my voice. It never will be, so, I can make the choice to actively try and pursue weaknesses and buff them up, or I can, work on things that are going to bring me personal joy rather than just, like, my public persona and public image. And the people that I want to associate with don't care about my voice, just as a precursor. They're more interested in gameplay, just, shooting this S, like, being total bros or whatever on Vent or Discord whenever we play, etc. And living that, very basic, very just for fun sort of lifestyle. And that's at least where I want to be, is at a memery type of life. And I'm kind of blessed these days that I get to, just spend my days messing around, playing whatever I want, doing whatever I want. And I know very few people are ever going to get to live this type of life where they've been able to, enjoy their hobbies as much as I have. And sure, you could argue that type of life is inferior to, the standard family life and, the white picket fence and all of that, but that was never an option to me, so given, the genetic decline that is invariable in being a mixed race person, like, that just goes along with the territory. Like, at least it could be much, much worse, so there are blessings in it. At least that's how I feel about it. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be just schizo. Maybe there's some better solution that I haven't thought of, but I doubt it. And even if there is, I'm not sure it would be worth my time to pursue it, right? At what point is chasing after your weaknesses and trying to improve them not better than just playing to your strengths? And I at least think I should play to my strengths. I hope you do too in your life. So, you have challenges in your life, and the goal is to overcome them and get to a point where you're, being someone who is at a point where you can at least not engage with those things. And yeah, so dodge bad, embrace good. I hope you have a good day and, can at least understand where I'm coming from on the voice aspect now. I'm sorry, it's probably a pain to listen to, and maybe I should try and prove it for just that, but YouTube is just something I do for fun. This isn't a career. I'm not planning to monetize any of this ever, so at the end of the day, it's, if it's something you can't get over the sound of my voice, you're welcome to not listen to the content. Like, I do think I have interesting things to say, but, you can always derive them from just the universal truths, principles I've outlined earlier. I hold to those generally, and maybe just watch every 50 episodes to see if I'm adding to them or relisting them. And you have a great day. Peace out.